So we have Ilias Cuesta on that left-hand side, and he's got Grady Kane in target number 1, and target number 2 is Jimmy Lutz with Chris Webster. So two experienced coaches, two very experienced archers. Grady was a finalist here 2023 in the senior division. Finished with silver medal on that occasion. Sawyer Sullivan taking gold. Jimmy has taken silver on 2 occasions this year. He'll be looking to make it third time the charm. That was both times to Mike Schlosser. So Mike is not here, of course. Jimmy is. And
what a way to start. What an absolute
and you
monster
could hear
way
the
to
thud.
start.
You could hear that thud as well.
Yeah.
Wow. And he's nice and crisply cut is Jimmy.
You know, I think he saw Alexis shooting in that bottom left side of the X and decided to avoid it.
To avoid the soft area.
Nice.
Just outside.
A little look over his shoulder to Chris Webster. Grady Kane, a young man, has been in the World Youth Championships the last 2 occasions. Limerick Island.
He's going to want to check that arrow. That was a fantastic shot.
Wow. And you can hear the thud as well. We've got our microphone sat right next to the targets. It looks like it's biting the line. Yep, it's been given a 10-9 liner. Opportunity here for Grady Kane just to steal an early advantage in this second match. He is absolutely in the zone. Turns around and just gives a knowing nod to Ilias.
Yeah, that was a great camera shot as well, because you could see where that arrow hit the other one and deflected down into the center of the X.
Absolutely in the zone, really is. Grady Kane, medalist at the World Youth in Limerick Island in 2023, and Winnipeg, Canada last year. He was part of the USA team as well, 2025. But he doesn't often get to this stage, and we look at the compound men division, just some of those that have been in the gold medal matches this year. Mike Schlosser, Jimmy Lutz at Gator Cup. It was Kyle Douglas and Dewey Hathaway at Salt Lake Summit, and then Mike and Jimmy again at SoCal Showdown. And just looking at some of the scores from earlier, I want to take you through seeing where those folks fell. Let me just go through, because it's not immediately to hand. So obviously these two guys, Kyle Douglas, the number 1 seed, fell at the semi-final stage. That was a 1-arrow shoot-off. Grady winning in a one-arrow shoot-off. A little bit more comfortable for Jimmy, 147-144 against Jeremiah Foster. So again, we go back, Matthias Fullerton, 1-arrow shoot-off with Jimmy in the quarter-finals. Jeremiah Foster, 1-arrow shoot-off win against Mikey Schlosser in the quarter-finals. So some real tense, tight affairs. Ace Coleman, who's been doing tremendously well in the last few USAT, spoke to him a couple of days ago, beaten by Grady at the quarter-final stage. Grady with a 149 there. So Grady has really kind of picked it up, and then a 148 1-arrow shoot-off. You talk about momentum. Yes, it was a 148 in the semis as opposed to a 149 in the quarters, but needing a 1-arrow shoot-off to get here. And then we're seeing Grady's confidence is sky high, maximum in the first 3 arrows.
You're coming in here with that giant momentum from your previous match, and even though you had a break in between, you're still carrying that confidence with you, and it shows right off the bat.
Breeze has just picked up a little bit again, similar direction, and they've got, they've got 3 indicators. They've got the what we call the feather banners, as Jimmy lands one down the middle into the X. Let's see if Grady can pick up where he left off. There's the local transport in the background, you can hear. He just drops it low.
Just a little long of a hold, trying to get that wind too.
We've got feather banners down each flank. We've got the flags above the target, and then right in the back on the cooling tower, as Jimmy hits another 10. In the cooling tower there's a windsock. So there's 3 indicators. You would suggest that they're taking their gauge from what? The target flags?
I would look at the target, and I would look at the banners in the middle of the field.
So another 9 from Grady. Started strong, just a little bit of a wobble here. Jimmy Lutz is very much firmly fixed in the zone. So
back in usual form.
Grady to respond. Be fabulous to finish with a 10 here. Finish strong.
There we go.
And he does. 28 plays 30, so that'll be 58 plays 59, a 1 point advantage for Jimmy Lutz.
That last arrow was massive. That's the difference between 1 point and 2 points back. And trying to fight back 2 points against Jimmy, that's
the key, isn't it?
That's monumental.
You're out in eliminations earlier in the competition, and maybe when you get to this stage and you're staring across at Jimmy Lutz, 1 point is one point is a gap, 2 point is a bit of a hill to climb.
Yeah.
Do you look at these guys? Do you look at the Jimmys and the Bradys and obviously in your division, that just maintaining that quality, and they often say in any sport, it's most of us can do, most of us could possibly hit in your sport, hit an X. Can you do it 3 times in a row, twice in a row? Can you do it when the pressure is on? What do you learn from other archers in other divisions, in other disciplines that maybe you can bring to your game? Is it more mental rather than technical?
It's composure. That's the big thing. How do you handle adversity? How do you handle that one shot that got away? Making sure that you're right back on, because that one shot can derail the next either 5 if you're in qualification or the next 2 if you're in elimination. So, I do observe a lot of archers around the world, not just here at home, and I try to learn from them. How do they keep mentally composed while they're shooting a high pressure situation? And it has helped me a lot, dedicating more time to the mental side of it. At this point, I look at it now as a quality over quantity when it's practice. I don't need to go out there and shoot 300 arrows just to shoot, but if I can shoot 100 really good quality arrows and throw some mental challenges in there, it's gonna help me way more.
Well, there we have the 1 point difference. You can see down the far end, and there you maybe see the windsock at the very back on that water tower, but the activity from the feather banners either side as well. Breeze is picking up a little. Grady had a 1 point advantage, now a 1 point deficit, but he's got his head back on. Great arrow from Grady Kane.
That's the ones that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the windsock on the field and looking at the flags on the targets. Put a little bit of English on that one.
Yeah, got a little recoil, a little pinch on that one from Jimmy. Tremendous from Grady Kane. He's had an early start as well. He was out early this morning. The youth eliminations were completing after delay last night, and he was out this morning supporting some of his, not just friends. Apparently they were rooming. He said, "Well, there's no way I was going to sleep with those guys getting up." So he was out as well this morning. So he's had a long day so far, looking to maintain his focus.
9.
Just dropped it into the 9. So Jimmy, having dropped to 9 with his last arrow, is a chance to maintain that 1 point advantage.
Yeah, he does.
With the 10. I think that with that first arrow, did it
was
pinch the line? It was on the line.
Yeah.
So I think we should be, as we were, going into the 4th end. So 29, 2 X's and a 9 for Grady. There we go, confirmation, 29 for Jimmy as well. So that 1 point difference will remain. There's Elias, conversation with Grady Kane. Great guy, Elias Cuesta really is such an easy going, and Chris Webster as well, 2 solid coaches to have in your corner. Elias was with the team, of course, at the World Cup, as Chris was in Madrid. That's his hometown. Managed to catch up with family. His parents lived nearby, just outside Madrid, and his sister, I believe, came in from the Netherlands. Just a short journey, an opportunity for him to catch up with family, and then back over here for domestic duties.
Exactly.
But those guys, like you, traveling a lot, and It's been a busy summer, but next year is going to be even busier. More activities next year as the wind picks up a little bit more at the start of this fourth end. 1 point the difference. 88 plays 87 for Grady Kane.
You could see that reaction on that shot. That wind is doing what it wants.
Jimmy.
10.
There we go. Grady trying to settle himself in. A little bit of a hold, down to 6 seconds.
9.
Another 9, looking around, and just a bit of a shrug from Grady Kane. It's even picking up a little bit more. It doesn't seem to be affecting Jimmy at all. It really doesn't, and you can hear picking up on our microphones. That breeze, it's a breeze that we've not quite had over the course of the first match and a half.
9.
And he's put another 9 in. That's a tough end for Grady Kane. 27. And Jimmy, if he lands this one, which he has, it'll be a 3-point swing. It'll be 4 points the difference.
4 points on 3 arrows.
Yeah. And it was just a wind misbehaving. And what people may not appreciate, you can see the trees there at the back. To the right of the archers, we've got a tree line. The wind coming up over the top of that and kind of hitting us. And maybe talk about where you guys were positioned for the paras, which is, as we're looking here, is probably about 30 meters left of those guys. So you're getting any wind, any weather that's coming over.
Correct. It's kind of doing what it wants when it comes over those trees. It'll swirl around or hit you. I mean, there was times when it was hitting me face on, and then there was times when it was going crosswind. So you just have to push through that shot and, not be weak on it.
Well, that seemed to be what Jimmy was doing there. He seemed to not kind of linger.
He was shooting relatively fast. The longer you hold, the more you're going to be moving around. So
now we see the activity. It is beginning to just get a little bit more breezy. Grady's to the line already. He's keen to get this 5th and final end. He's going to need a maximum, hoping for something out of character from Jimmy Lutz. Jimmy, just to remind you, has got silver on 2 occasions this year.
Current world record holder.
Absolutely. That was at Gator Cup. 72 arrows, 719 points. You do the math. Phenomenal performance from Jimmy. But Mikey Schlosser took gold when it came down to eliminations in Florida. A long hold there, down to almost 3 seconds, but he gets the 10 as Grady Kane. Just a slightest shake of the head there. I think he realised how close a call that was. Jimmy seems to be absolutely.
Yeah, he's getting on it and letting it go and not letting that wind affect his hold.
Down to 7, 6. Got down to 5 seconds there when he landed it. And then Jimmy, 16, 15, 14. He let go at 12. So Grady at 1 point for his first arrow was down to 3 seconds. Jimmy's
8 seconds from drawback to execution.
Doesn't want to hang around. As you say, he doesn't want to be pushed around any more than he has to with this wind. Get settled and get released.
Yeah, and it looks like Grady's shooting a hinge release versus Jimmy shooting a thumb.
Well, he did what he could. Grady Kane, the damage was done in end number 4. And Jimmy, absolutely phenomenal performance from Jimmy Lutz in conditions that misbehaved a little bit. You may have heard us there talking about Grady's performance, and obviously we'll talk about your performance as well. Fantastic. But just talk to Grady. We were talking. He's not somebody we often see on this stage. What is it telling you about the kind of few days that he's had here in Dublin?
Yeah, I mean, he's always been capable. And we actually were just talking about that right after our match. Like, I know he podiumed here 4 years ago, I think he said, and he's capable. He just needs to tell himself that he's capable. And I mean, I'm sure we'll see a lot more of him.
he had a tremendous start. I mean, raced out of the blocks. And for you, where was that pivotal? Was it that fourth end? Because, you know, Jason and I were talking, the wind started to misbehave. You didn't seem to kind of skip a beat. I know it seemed to affect Grady.
Yeah, it's all week has been tricky here. And, I mean, we kind of expect that coming here to Columbus. It's always switching back and forth. You never really know what to expect. And honestly, my misses today have been into the wind, so I just didn't let my pin leave the 10 ring as much as possible for this match, and it definitely paid off.
I mean, you've had a tremendous year. Two silvers, a world record. You get that gold. Obviously, we were saying the points accumulation, I imagine, was going to be enough, but this guarantees your place at the USAT Series final. I mean, you've had a wonderful USAT Series in 2026, and you take that form into Springfield next month, and I imagine looking to walk away with gold there. What has been that momentum this year that's kind of helped you over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good year with the 2 second places. I mean, I really wanted to get that gold today, but with this field that we have, the competition that we have. I mean, we have the world number 1 and number 2 coming to our events. You know, a couple of years ago when I would win a couple, 2, 3, 4 of these a year. It's not like that anymore. You know, it's literally the same difficulty as a World Cup at a USAT now. So, which it's great. You know, I love it. It gives me that competition, gets me ready for the World Cup. So, but yeah, it's been a great year. But I finally got that win.
And just talk about Buckeye Classic. And look, you gold medalist. It's been a record-breaking event. What makes this event so special?
It's a good location for sure. I feel like specifically in Buckeye, we see a lot of new faces, which is great. It's awesome for the sport, awesome for World Archery, for USA Archery. But typically, I mean, the weather, as you guys saw yesterday, the weather can be very spotty here, but it doesn't ruin the attitude of the archers. You know, we just want to come out here and compete, and I can't say a bad thing about Columbus.